All right, let's get right into it. We are all surrounded by AI, right? And its recommendations are they're getting harder and harder to ignore. But here's the big question. How do we make sure we're using it as a super powerful assistant and not accidentally letting it become our boss? Today, we're going to break down this incredible framework from system architect Jonathan M. Kayomba, all about how to keep humans firmly in the driver's seat. Does this sound familiar? The model says we have to. Maybe you've heard it, or let's be honest, maybe you've even said it. This little phrase pops up in meetings all the time, especially in places that are really proud of being data-driven. It sounds so certain, so logical, you almost can't question it. And this, right here, is where the trouble starts. When an AI's output is framed that way, is it just information, a hopeful tip? Or has it quietly crossed a line and turned into a command? That subtle shift is the exact problem that the author, Jonathan M. Kayomba, is trying to solve. So that brings us to the first major idea here, this problem of drift. This is what happens when a simple prediction, a forecast, starts to feel like an order. And that has some pretty huge consequences for how we make decisions and who's ultimately responsible. The author actually gives this problem a name. He calls it authority drift. It's this sneaky process where an epistemic prediction, that's just a fancy way of saying a forecast about what is likely to happen, starts to gain deontic force. Basically, it becomes something we feel we should do just because of the tone or because we hear it over and over. And this drift, it leads to three really big failures that Jonathan M. Kayomba points out. First, that authority drift we just talked about. Second, something he calls premature R&D pruning. What that means is if the model sounds super confident, we just stop looking for other, maybe even better ideas. And third, moral outsourcing. And, this is the big one. This is when we start blaming the tool for bad outcomes, when we say, hey, the model told me to do it. So what do we do about this? How do we fight back? Well, the author proposes a core solution that he calls the sovereignty principle. It's a really simple but incredibly powerful idea that puts the relationship between us and the machine back in the right order. This quote from the author, right here, is the foundation for his whole way of thinking. The AI's job is mechanical, to crunch numbers, to find patterns, to predict. But sovereignty, the final say, the authority to set the goals, that is and always must be human. A forecast is just information. It is not a verdict. This chart really lays it out. It separates two different worlds. Over on the left, you've got the epistemic world of the AI, or as the author calls it, the oracle. It's all about facts, data, forecasts, the world of what is. But on the right, that's the normative world, the human world. That's where our goals, our values, our authorship live. This is the world of what we should do. And Kayomba's entire system is designed to build a solid firewall between these two. Okay, so how do we actually maintain that firewall in the real world? This is where the author gives us a practical, actionable framework, a set of rules and a system designed to keep responsibility right where it belongs, with the human making the call. The author gives us a 7-rule procedure to make this happen. Let's look at a few. Rule 1, label the channel. Says you have to clearly mark all AI outputs for what they are, projections, not facts. Rule 2, bind the locus, literally forces you to say or write, I choose, just to reinforce that you're the author of the decision. Or look at Rule 6, freeze the interface. It makes you log a signed explanation for your choice before you do anything. See? Every single rule is built to create a pause, a moment for human thought, to stop us from just sleepwalking into agreement with the AI. And to put these rules to work, the author designs a 4-layer system. It all starts at the bottom, at layer 0, the sensor layer. This is where the AI lives. It's the oracle. Its only job is to churn out data and predictions, pure, simple information about what is. That's it. Then we move up a level to layer 1, deliberation. This is the human layer. This is you. You are the sovereign agent who takes that raw info from layer 0, applies your own goals and values to it, and makes the final decision. In Kayomba's system, this is the absolute seat of power. From there, layer 2 is proxy control. Think of this as the execution layer. These are the teams or automated systems that actually carry out the decision that was made back in layer 1. And the key thing here, as the author makes crystal clear, is that they are acting on the human's command from layer 1, not the oracle's forecast from layer 0. And finally, we have layer 3, accountability. This is the permanent record,
the ledger, that ties the decision directly back to the human chooser in layer 1. It makes it absolutely certain that responsibility can't be passed off to the tool or to the team that executed the plan. It stays always with the decision maker. So, okay, we've got the rules, we've got the architecture, but how do we actually know if it's working? How can we measure if humans are really staying in charge? Well, let's look at the metrics Jonathan M. Kayoma came up with for exactly this purpose. This is called the Agency Retention Ratio, or ARR. It's a really clever way to see what's actually driving a decision. Is it being influenced more by human goals and values, or by what the model is forecasting? The author's target is to always keep the ARR above 0.5, which just means human input is always the bigger piece of the pie. It's a dead simple visual check to see if authority drift is creeping in. Which brings us right back to this huge failure mode. When that ARR number dips below 0.5, that's when you get moral outsourcing. It's the ultimate cop-out, the ultimate abdication of responsibility, turning a powerful tool into a convenient scapegoat. So what's the author's antidote? It's simple, it's practical, and it really works. The signed rationale. This is that frozen interface we saw back in the 7 rules. It's a permanent, unchangeable record that basically says, here's the data I was looking at, here were my goals, and here's the decision I made. It makes accountability completely inescapable. So let's pull all this together. What Jonathan M. Kayoma's work is really about isn't rejecting AI. Not at all. It's about defining a mature, responsible, and truly sovereign relationship with it. The author boils down his entire philosophy into a 10-line canon. Here are 5 of the most powerful lines. Just look at how clear and forceful they are. Responsibility is conserved at the chooser. And my personal favorite, forecasts are tools, not thrones. I mean, that just perfectly captures the whole idea of keeping technology in its proper place. And this is really the final, powerful takeaway from the author. Look, we all want the speed and the power that AI gives us. But chasing that speed without holding on to our sovereignty, our authorship over our own choices, that's just a quiet way of giving up. Kayoma gives us the blueprint to have both, to get the speed without losing control. So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. As these tools get woven deeper and deeper into our lives, it's a question we're all going to have to answer, not just at work, but in our personal decisions too. Who is really the author of your story?